All right, three, two, one, and we are recording. Hello, everybody.
Greetings back from the dead.
I guess the zombie podcast. It's not the zombie podcast.
I mean, we've risen from the dead, so but we're not talking about The Walking Dead anymore.
No, we're not. So we are back as the Real Housewives of Alaska. I am Diane.
And I am Marnell.
And oh my God, we have a lot of catching up to do.
It's been a while. Two,
Yeah,
2 years.
about,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. A lot's happened.
A lot has happened. Southgate Media Group was no more for a while, and they have risen from the dead as well. Phil Perich of Capes and Lunatics has been kind enough to offer to help us get up and running again and host us. So that is to whom we owe our resurrection, shall we
Thank you,
say.
Phil.
Thank you, Phil. I've got some plugs to read for Phil later. So
Okay.
I think we're going to turn things a little bit on their heads though first and do a little housewives housekeeping before we dive into the movie that we're talking about tonight.
Do you want
So,
to take it away?
oh my God. Well, you can see I'm not blonde anymore.
It's so hard to maintain.
It is. It's very hard to maintain. It's hard on your hair. Um, Gosh, my eyesight is not quite as good, and I've gotten a little bit older, but holy cow. Um, I am now a power lifter. I am sort of kind of married already, but the big frou-frou is happening in July. Um, my goodness. I'm living no longer in rural Alaska, but in as urban as Alaska gets. Life has been really crazy for the last like 3 years. It's basically been 3 years since I moved back into Anchorage.
But
So,
it's been very good for you. It's been a lot of good.
yeah, it has been. It's mostly been good. I mean, there have been some rocky shoals to navigate, as you have said about other things that we're going to be talking about.
Oh yeah.
Uh, but mostly it's been really good. And I have a cold, you guys. I'm really sorry. First one out of the gate. I've got a cold. I swear it's not COVID. I got COVID tested this morning because we no longer live in the before or during times. We live in the upside down times.
And it just keeps getting weirder. Yeah.
So tell us about what's been happening to you over the last couple of years, as much as
Uh,
you're willing to tell.
yeah, so I will say that I am living alone, so I'm even less of a housewife than I used to be. Um, and I won't get into the gritty details of that. They're very personal. It was a very, very difficult time that started a lot longer ago than 2 years. So it just sort of culminated over the past year. And yeah, so I still currently live in my house, looking for a new one maybe. Real estate sucks. Um,
I don't know what it's like in the rest of the country, but in Alaska, good luck. That's all I have to say. Good luck.
yeah, so, and I actually also took a different job in my same office. A job was created to be my boss because my boss has too many people under her. And after them putting it out 4 or 5 times and people saying, Marnell, why don't you apply? Why don't you apply? And I did not want to be a supervisor, but I was in some second round interviews for some people who could have been my supervisor. And I went, I don't want you to be my supervisor. I like my supervisor, and the only way I can keep her is if I become a supervisor. So I am now an HBIC. I am a head bitch in charge. So um, it came with a pretty generous pay bump that I negotiated myself. Thank you very much. It came with a really lame union. Our contract negotiations this year are not going well, but hopefully my salary will bump up to where I can afford to buy a new place all by my lonesome. But yeah, like I'm looking at probably $500,000
Oh
for
my God.
a townhome.
Well, I paid essentially a quarter for
A
a
duplex.
0 lot line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of a fancy duplex. 2 townhouses stitched together.
Yeah. There's a couple of places that are on the market for about 400,000. And then there are condos on the market for like 450,000. And then you have to pay HOA dues after that. And it's just
I should send you my friend's ad for their place because it's really gorgeous and they're asking under 400.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'll have to send the link to you on Facebook.
Yeah, I will be looking to move out before the end of the year, but not really sooner than that. So, yeah. So my life is kind of crazy. Being a supervisor is kind of stressful, but the 2 employees that I have, and luckily I just have the 2, are amazing. So it was a really good way to dip my toes into being a supervisor, because I've never been one before. I've never aspired to be one. So, yeah. Single, kind of, not ready to mingle. But yeah. And so, like, a lot of really, like, bad stuff has happened. A lot of really stressful stuff has happened. But I'm kind of, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm hopeful, and yeah.
You're kind of coming out the other side finally.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what's in your mug.
Not vodka. So this is kind of an homage to when we guest on any of the Capes and Lunatics podcasts. For a while there, we were doing a lot of guest spots when they were reviewing movies, mainly Marvel movies. But like, I started off with like a wine glass. And like every show we did, I would get a bigger and bigger wine glass until like I just eventually wound up with I think it was a box of wine with a straw in it. And I was like, God, if we do another podcast, I'm gonna have to get a kiddie pool. Like, so this my snarky cup, and I figured I would do a new snarky thing on my cup every time. So I guess watch for that.
So I don't drink anymore. That's one of the things that is part of my life now. And I know I sound like I'm making apologies. I was never a problem drinker. It was not a thing for me. It's just not something that I choose to do. But I will tell you today, I would have had a glass of champagne if I'd been in New York.
Yeah, this isn't actually vodka. It is the tea from that Asian restaurant that we went to.
Very good.
It's a Korean tea. It's ginger and cinnamon sticks and brown sugar. It's fucking delightful. Like, and it's in my TST mug.
Oh, awesome. We have to re-watch that movie and re-podcast that movie.
Oh man, I make so many people watch that movie, and like they come away with it with like an opinion that they didn't think that they were going to have.
So for people who are new to Housewives, the first movie that we reviewed together for the Real Housewives was Hail Satan, about the Satanic Temple.
Yep.
So,
yep, I even have my ticket to hell.
I have my membership documents framed and hung upstairs in my little vanity area with, my makeup and all my clothes, and yeah.
Yes, Dianne and I are literally card-carrying members of the Satanic Temple.
We are. In fact, I put new splashy stickers on my motorcycle using my card from the Satanic Temple to kind of flatten out the stickers. Yes,
Motorcycle.
I have a motorcycle too. Yeah. That last year I ended up breaking 2 toes.
Not on the motorcycle though.
Not on the motorcycle, in the weight room, which was kind of embarrassing. Yeah, never drop a 45-pound steel plate on your great toe, because your great toe is not so great after that.
Yeah, no.
So I did not ride at all last year, and I still haven't gotten my license. So this year I kind of feel like I'm starting from ground zero, but we'll see how it goes.
And Diane actually got me to weightlift with her the last time I was in Anchorage, and I did surprisingly well. So apparently it is in the blood.
Deadlift. You have a killer deadlift.
I deadlifted more than my own body weight. So
yes, it was pretty impressive.
I think because it's like in kilograms, so I think I came out to like 187 pounds or something.
Yeah, I think you were just shy of 200 of lifting 200 pounds.
Yeah, and of course when you lift, it's like, it's not like you start off with like something super heavy. So you've done quite a few reps by the time you get up to like 85 kilograms, whatever it was. Yeah,
you're warming up and you're working up.
Yeah. So you've already done a bunch of stuff by then. And I think the only reason why I didn't go a little bit higher than that was I was actually in town for work, and I didn't want to like kill myself like while I was in town on business. So yeah, but that was
I have to apologize to people. So you're going to hear the highway because I'm close to one of the main thoroughfares. You may hear my neighbors because they're my neighbors. They're not my beloved neighbors. So yeah, you may get some extra auditory noise that you don't really want, but here we are.
I mean, that's every podcast, I think, just about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so what are we talking about tonight, Marn?
So amazing timing. We are talking about the Stormy Daniels documentary that is streaming on Peacock,
which is just entitled Stormy, and it was put out this year, a couple of months ago. Wow. So how did I forgot to remind you to rate it. Did you do a rating for it?
Are we rating on a scale of like 5 or 10?
10, I think, because that's how I'm rating. If you would like me to go first, if you don't have one, because I got you.
Okay, go ahead.
I am giving it 34 of only the best convictions out of 10. And if that offended you, you should probably just leave the podcast now, because it's going to get worse.
Oh, much worse. Yeah. Yep. Seriously, 34 out of 10?
No. I just felt like that was perfect.
It was perfect. It was perfect. I saw a joke today that said we should start calling him 34 instead of 45.
Yes. No, my original rating was 8 out of 10 shitty betrayals.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah.
So I rated it a 7.5. Orange hobgoblins.
Oh, I love that.
That's how she referred to him. And I think that was really the only time she insulted him.
Yes. I think so.
Yeah. And it was when she was going through some marital strife with her ex-husband. So she deserves to be a little snarky at that point.
Yes. In the words of our mistress and savior, Stormy Daniels, the orange hobgoblin. Look at that really handsome dog yawning behind you.
Yeah, now everyone gets to put a face to the barks and the clickety clack.
Oh my God. I'm kind of surprised that the clickety clacking here has settled down. I also have far fewer dogs than I had when we were podcasting previously. So
that is very true.
And Marn's got one of them. So
which is him. That is Dexter. That's formerly my nephew dog, now my son dog.
Named for the serial killer, of course.
Yep.
Well, so do you want to dive right into our director?
Sure.
So our director is a gal named Sarah Gibson, and her IMDb page said that she has put together several documentary features as well as series. And she's really well known for 3 movies: Fed Up, IOUSA, and Small Town Gay Bar. Have you watched Small Town Gay Bar?
I have not, but I have seen Fed Up. Fed Up
Okay.
was really good.
We may have to do a Sarah Gibson binge then, because Small Town Gay Bar is one of the best documentaries I think I've seen, like, ever. I really liked it a lot. So we may have to do that one, and it sounds like we may have to do Fed Up as well.
I would be amenable to that. I've been kind of looking for something for us to podcast in the future. So, yeah.
I was going to tease you and tell you that the next movie that we had to do was the Garfield movie, because that was the movie that Rob's kids decided we were going to on Friday. And you know, some sainted person, not once, but twice, pulled the fire alarm, so the movie got canceled.
Some sainted person, and her name starts with Dianne.
I know, right? I mean, Rob was asleep by the time it happened. The kids were awake and watching the movie. I was trying to figure out how I could get comfortable enough to fall asleep. So I swear to God, I swear to Satan that I didn't pull the fire alarm. But all I have to say is that the person was doing the Lord's work.
That's hilarious.
So we're actually not podcasting Garfield the movie, but I really wanted to tease you and tell you that was what we're going to do next.
I was actually just at the movies. I went and saw Furiosa.
Yeah, we saw Furiosa 2 days later, because that was the movie we really wanted to see.
And the person I was with was like, who asked for another Garfield movie?
Apparently 3 peri-adolescent people that are now in my life. Yeah, Garfield. So terrible. Oh my God.
Another new development, stepchildren.
I know, right? 3 stepkids, you guys. Who would have thunk it?
Diane's a wicked stepmother.
I am a wicked stepmother. Wicked, by the way. We'll have to podcast that when it comes out.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. All right. So I don't really have a lot more to say about Sarah, because I told Marnell, I was like, I'm just so ready to get this first podcast done that I'm kind of spitballing some of this stuff. So here we are. I read a little bit about Sarah Gibson. I didn't read a ton.
Kind of the same.
All right. That makes me feel better. So do you want to tell us who our asshole of the podcast or the week or the hour or what?
Yeah, so we used to do a featured cast member, and since we're doing a documentary, he is not a cast member, and we're kind of featuring him because he's the standout asshole, I think, in this story, which is surprising considering the subject matter.
Yeah.
So it relates to your rating. Michael Avenatti, the former lawyer for Stormy Daniels, who is now.
When you said his name.
What's that?
I said I just got chills when you said his name, and not like a goose walked across my grave chills. Ugh.
Oh, so I mean, if you didn't know going into this, like what happened by the end of this, like he looks like like the savior of the hour. He is your white knight in the beginning.
He looked like the savior of the hour when all of this first started. I mean, he was so heroic and charging into the storm, no pun intended. I mean, he threw his hat in the ring for the presidency at one point. I mean, I would have voted for the guy.
Yeah. I mean, this guy has a really storied history with kind of being the champion of the little guy. And so, I mean,
Or so we thought.
He's got a lot of heavyweight cases under his belt, and a massive resume with politics and business. And I mean, he raced in 33 sports car races. I like the guy has like this amazing history, this amazing life. And to find out that he is now serving 19 years in prison for extortion, fraud, theft, tax evasion, I mean, wire fraud, you name it. Like, if there's like a monetary crime, this guy committed it. And all the while, like, you know, he wrote the foreword to Stormy Daniels' book. Like, I listening to. Yeah, I'm currently listening to it, and he wrote and reads the foreword to her book. And so, I mean, this guy, it's just amazing. So a weird little thing that he was involved in, and I'm not sure you would remember this. This is like kind of a hilarious thing with Gen X whenever they do like trivia for, you know, people in our generation. Do you remember when Pepsi did a like sweepstakes where you could enter to win a bunch of different prizes, like, you know, a vacation or a boat or a car, things like that? And at the end,
I remember stuff like that.
At the end of the commercial, they pictured a Harrier jet, like a military grade jet. And some guy figured out a way to win this jet. And Pepsi was like, okay, that wasn't real. We weren't really offering that. And he's like, tough. Like, you promised we could win these prizes, and I did whatever it took to win this prize. And so he wound up suing Pepsi for basically the value of this jet.
Oh my God. How many billions of dollars was that?
Michael Avenatti was the lead counsel on the case. He is actually in the documentary, which you can watch on Netflix, called Pepsi, Where's My Jet?
Oh my God.
He actually did all of his interviews from home because he was on house arrest at the time.
Oh my God.
So like his life is absolutely wild.
Well played, well researched.
So he is serving 19 years. 4 of those years are for the case for Stormy Daniels and the
embezzling against her.
Right. But he's got so many other things, and there's kind of a little timeline that I wanted to go through, because he did have a kind of a criminal case. He had a domestic violence complaint, but not charge. Complaint.
I think I vaguely remember that.
Yes. So
that was when it kind of started to unravel, right?
Yes, absolutely. So it was in November of 2018, the before times, and the unnamed victim was said to be his girlfriend, because at the time he was in the middle of separating from his second wife. So on November 30th, 2018, he signed basically a separation agreement with his second wife. He was signing over a bunch of assets to her.
I read about that.
Yeah. So it included 5 luxury wristwatches, a Frank Gehry sculpture, other artwork, and a leased 2017 Ferrari 488 Spider. He also tried to sign over their 2015 Honda private jet, but the feds actually confiscated that during his tax fraud case. So
can I just say that it doesn't seem like a very good deal to get a leased Ferrari? I mean, could you imagine the balloon payment at the end of that lease? Oh my God.
Yeah, but nobody drives an old, like, you know, a 5-year-old Ferrari. Like, so it just, you just give it back at the end of the lease and you lease a new one. Like,
That's
because
Phil's quote of the podcast. Nobody drives a 5-year-old Ferrari.
I mean, if you got a private jet, you're getting a new Ferrari every couple of years, or Bugatti or whatever. So it was right around March, April, May of 2019. So just a few months later, after he has signed over all of this stuff, and he's paying his spouse, soon to be ex-spouse, $40,000 a month in familial support, which
Sign me up.
which actually in December, he had agreed to pay Lisa, his ex-wife, $1,947,540 in child and spousal support. So, like, I don't know if like he's continuing to pay $40,000 a month on top of the $2 million, but like, man. And here he stole $300,000 from Stormy Daniels. Like, what are you doing, dude? That's chump change in your world. I mean,
Yeah.
the man had been involved in so many high profile cases that involved tens of millions and sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars in settlements. And so one of the cases he did in 2017, there was a $454 million verdict against Kimberly Clark and Halyard Health. So, like, I would imagine the legal fees and the commissions and everything that his firm got from that would be huge. What are you doing stealing $300,000 from this very high profile client? You know, like, it's absolutely insane. So his life really started to unravel right around the end of 2018. And then at the beginning of 2019 is when he started to get charged with the fraud with Stormy Daniels, and then the fraud with Nike, the tax evasion, all of that. So, yeah. And the latest news on him is he actually, the Supreme Court just declined to review his conviction and his appeal. So,
specific to the Nike case.
Right.
I looked it up today because I couldn't remember if it happened yesterday or the day before, because oh my God, I'm overwhelmed by the news flood right now. So
right. Yeah. So that is Michael Avenatti. That's our asshole of the hour.
He such a stellar disappointment. That's all I can say. I mean, I really thought that he truly was one of the good guys.
Yeah. He was the beginning of his career. He was given an award for graduating Juris Doctor class, demonstrates excellence in pretrial and trial advocacy. So, I mean, like I said, this guy was supposed to be the champion for the little guy, and he was on a trajectory to head straight into a fantastic political career. He worked for Rahm Emanuel, during the time that Rahm was chief of staff in Barack Obama's White House. I mean, it was all right there for the taking. And dude just liked to live a little too large, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, nobody drives a 5-year-old Ferrari.
And nobody is above the law.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my
Now
god.
would probably be a good time to state this show is for entertainment purposes only and not intended to be a news source. The opinions and views expressed by the housewives are solely their own and not reflective of the opinions or views of the broadcast publisher or their affiliates.
You're welcome, Phil.
We need a button that is just like allegedly.
Dude is a convicted felon now.
Yep. Convicted
as of today. So Marn and I were actually going to podcast a couple of days ago, and we ended up having to push back a little bit. And oh my god, the timing couldn't have been better.
Score 1 for the procrastinators.
What do you say? I mean, I don't even know what to say. I am one of the people who is stunned that the verdict actually finally held Donald Trump to account.
Same. I mean, he is having a tough year with the E. Jean Carroll loss twice, right?
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, twice. And now this 34
from $5 billion or $5 million to like $89 million because of his defamation losses.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep. And you know, this is definitely, I have to say, this definitely is not the end of this case, let alone all of the other pending cases.
Right.
Because this is just going to get dragged out into appeals. You know, this is going to get appealed to death. It's going to stretch out for years and years. His lawyers aren't going to get paid. Yeah. Because, I mean, I guess he only pays people when he wants them to stay quiet.
Or if he's winning.
Yep. So I have a lot of feelings about it. I mean, I didn't even care about this case. I still really don't. The only kind of thing that I care about is the Stormy Daniels portion of the case, which we'll get into.
I gotta interrupt just for a second. I actually have a little bit of pity for Michael Cohen. I really do, because he was a crook. I mean, like they said when they were doing closing arguments, they didn't go to the witness store and pick him out. He's not the person they would have picked to be their primary witness if they had been able to stop off at the witness store and get a good witness. But I feel sorry for him.
I feel like everyone in Trump's orbit just hitches their wagon to him so that they can, you know, move up in this world of money and politics and infamy and whatever. And like, I don't think Cohen's a good guy, but like he's not a monster. So yeah, I kind of feel sorry for him. But
I just feel like, you know, he gave up a lot, and he chose to give up a lot. He chose it, but he gave up a lot to hitch his star to Donald Trump, and look at where it got him. Landed him in prison.
Yeah.
Lost his law degree, you know. Didn't lose the degree, but lost his license to practice. So I feel sorry for him.
Yeah, a little bit.
Just a little bit.
And of course, like, we're gonna hear from him and everybody else until the end of time with everything that is going on. But like you, I'm completely stunned that the verdict came in so quickly. It was unanimous on all 34 counts, and that, like, we're here. Like,
it's real.
I had, like I said, I haven't really been following the case because I didn't care. It wasn't going to change my vote either way. And like, I also don't care that he slept with a porn star. Like that wouldn't have changed my vote. Like, and I don't think it would have changed anyone's vote for him. Like, like none of it mattered in the end. And so the only people that are potentially getting rich is the lawyers in all of this, and it's resulted in just such divisive vitriol. And you and I were talking today, and we're actually worried about the state of the country because of this. Like, and what for? Who cares? Like, it's not going to sway very many people's opinions. It's not going to sway enough opinions to matter. The presidential.
I hope it sways enough opinions to matter. I read a prediction, and I can't remember who made it. It may have even been Rob, because we've been talking back and forth most of the day, suggesting that there will be enough people who will kind of fall off on the edges, people who will decide not to vote at all, that maybe it will make a difference.
So the news that I have been watching has done polls already, and take them with a grain of salt, because like we all know how polls go these days. They're polling people with landlines, and who among us has a landline? It's basically anyone over like 70. So like they've been doing these polls, and it's like, are you now more likely to vote for him, less likely to vote for him, or your opinion is unchanged? And like, and they polled Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and there was about a 20% likelihood that independents, who were basically the ones that matter in the swing states, about 20% of them said this would make them less likely to vote for him. But that's 20% of the few people that they polled 5 minutes after the verdict. And our elections come down to between 3 and 7 states voting. Like the rest of us are just casting our ballots symbolically. It's between 3 and 7 states. The last election came down to 45,000 votes, and it only mattered in those states. So I don't think it's going to matter.
I hope it matters. I don't know. I've taken to listening to George Conway. Do you know who George Conway is?
Yes, I have been reading his tweets today.
Kellyanne's ex-husband.
Yes.
He has a great podcast called George Conway Explains Everything to Sarah, who is the publisher, Sarah Longwell, I think her name is, the publisher of The Bulwark. And I've really been enjoying the heck out of them. And I'm like, we do live in upside down times, because me saying I'm willingly listening to George Conway's podcast and enjoying it. I mean, dude is an active member of the Federalist Society. I mean, come on.
Right.
But here we are. Anyway, he actually predicts that the appeals will probably be done within the next year, and that that he really feels like the case is really tight, that there really are not grounds for appeal. And he's an attorney. He's an attorney by trade.
Yeah, I think the closest thing that I saw in the news that I've watched is this was about the fraud committed in a federal election, and they tried it in state court, and that could be something that they could appeal. And I was like, I guess, but I mean, 34 counts, unanimous vote in what, 2 days of
11 hours. 11 hours.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they got the instructions yesterday, and they had to read 55 of the 110 pages of jury instruction. And so that probably took up a lot of time yesterday. So, yeah. Yeah. That's That's basically, so they asked for so the testimony from David Pecker to be reread to them, and then the testimony of Michael Cohen to be reread to them. And there was, I think, something else that they wanted clarification from the judge on. And so I think they basically like got into the room and went in, you know, does anybody have, and they had that. And then they all took a vote and went, okay, what are we going to do for the rest of the day? That's crazy.
Yeah, 11 hours. So, is he going to jail?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Although George Conway, the saint of George Conway, thinks that he will spend probably 12 to 18 months in jail.
For this?
For this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even the political commentators on our side of the aisle are saying that he is an octogenarian with no criminal history. So, you know, this is a wire fraud case that really had no victim. It's not like anybody was out the money. And you know, so not a violent, it's a class C felony, which is the lowest felony. So honestly, I think if he gets, because he there's the potential for 4 years, I think what they said.
I didn't hear that, but I had not gotten to that point in the news today. You actually have listened to more news today than I have, so
it helped me hyper focus on an audit I'm doing. So potentially like the penalty is up to 4 years, and I could see them giving him like 2 years with 2 years suspended, you know, like I could see them giving him time, but suspending the time and him being on probation that entire time. But the guy is not known to follow the rules very well. So if they do give him a suspended sentence, he could actually go to prison. And there's been a lot of talk about what would that look like for an ex-president who has Secret Service
right
going to prison. They could put him on house arrest.
Yeah, there's been some conversation around that.
Yeah, I could totally see that. So yeah, that's, I mean,
you pointed out a couple of hilarious things to me, one of which is that he cannot vote for himself in the state of Florida.
He can't vote for himself at all. Like, yeah. He can't run for any office.
He can't go into Canada.
Not like he wanted to.
They do not allow felons to cross the border into Canada.
I guess the Canadian Prime Minister will have to come here if Trump is ever president again.
Oh my God. That is epic.
And there's probably a lot of countries that wouldn't let a felon in. And I don't know if they're going to waive that for a president. So, I mean, it's not like he likes to travel far anyway. Like, he spent most of his time at Mar-a-Lago or the White House. And it was reported that, like, he hated staying at the White House. He prefers his little safety safe, you know? Like, nobody likes to stay away from home for a while. So, yeah, I think house arrest would be very appropriate. But yeah, talking earlier, he can't vote for himself, and he cannot run for any office in Florida. He can run for the president, but he can't run for dog catcher or school board or mayor, or, you know, he can't run for any office in his home state.
That is epic. Or as a
It's
friend of mine was saying, the chef's kiss.
It's mind-blowing that this is not a disqualifying thing to be president. Like, there are so few things you have to be like a US citizen and 42 or whatever, and like those are like the two requirements for president. And like
you have to be a natural born citizen, and you have to have lived in the country for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, there are a few things, but obviously the founding fathers never thought, what do we do if somebody who commits a felony decides that they want to run for office? They never really thought that through.
There are a lot of things that the founding fathers did not think through, but they were working in their time. They did not expect to have felons running for president, automatic weapons, and yeah.
Pornhub, Wicked Pictures.
Oh.
Yeah.
We live in the upside down.
There's really not much more to say about the news, is there?
No.
I mean, and it feels like there was no other news today.
I certainly didn't pay attention to the news before you texted me. Like she just texted me the word guilty, and like it took me about 2 seconds to figure out what she was talking about, what you were talking about, and like it was so shocking.
You know how I found out? The stepkid who's living overseas. He sent it to the family group chat.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like, I think the biggest thing that I absolutely loathe in all of this is the world is watching and we're a joke.
We are a joke.
Yeah. The whole thing. So like I said, I have not kept track of this trial or anything. There was a lot of stuff in the documentary that I didn't know, just because I didn't care. Who cares if he slept with a porn star? Who cares if he paid her off so that he could get elected? I don't think it made a difference.
I care about that. Did it make a difference? I don't know, but I care about the fact that he was able to pay somebody off and potentially throw the election his way.
But I don't think it, and so here's the thing. I don't think it threw the election either way. But if it had, would I have cared? Yeah. So it's kind of like no harm, no foul, so no crime. But that's not the way the world works. There are so many other things that so many other things that we should be focused on. There are so many other criminal elements that I think, I mean, we've got bigger fish to fry than paying off a porn star.
Well, maybe it's just the start. Maybe it's just the start.
The first domino.
Yeah. Well, should we finally get on to talking about our movie a little bit more?
I think so.
You saw me pull my notes out. So we decided that we were going to pay an homage to our old podcast fighters and to Jeff and Kirk, and use their system of rating the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yep.
So do you want to go first?
Sure.
So what was your good?
My good is that this documentary served to humanize somebody that has been lamented in the press. Like she said in the beginning of the documentary, that her name is always porn star Stormy Daniels. It's never just Stormy Daniels. It's getting better, but she is always just maligned for her line of work. And I absolutely hate that. I didn't really know much about her before this, because her porn was not my, cup of tea. And I didn't care to know about the case. So like I said, there were a lot of really shocking things that I learned in this, but this allowed her to tell not just her story around what happened, but her story her life. And we got to know that she was a victim of abuse when she was 9 years old, and she has gone through a couple of marriages, and she is the sole provider for her family, and she is an amazing mom. Her world stops for her daughter. And she loves horses, and even when she is in the wrong, she is willing to own up to it. And even during her divorce from her husband, she's like, he's a good dad. And this really humanized her a lot. And I told you when we did our first watch and we talked about it, this was a woman who was dropped on a rudderless ship and told to steer around a reef in shark-infested water.
Absolutely.
And I mean, to everyone's surprise, she's doing it. And watching her do it in this documentary, and the tears and the exhaustion and everything, just, it served to humanize her. And she didn't ask for this. This is something that was done to her. She was dropped on a rudderless ship. She didn't ask to do any of this. And, she's having to deal with the fallout for that, with her career and, her family, and the threat of violence that she's gone through. And now the harassment from one of the most powerful people in the world. And it's, who would not cave under that pressure? I mean, the strength that this woman has. So I mean, us being the feminists that we are, I love a strong woman, and this woman is a strong woman, and she was strong before this. She was the second highest paid director for porn. And now she is going into mainstream movies. She just has so much drive. I admire her so much. And like I said, I didn't know anything about her until I watched this. And so, yeah, my good was Stormy herself and the storm that she weathered.
Right.
What's that?
I think the thing that impressed me about her so much was she's so bright. She's an incredibly intelligent woman, as well as being an incredibly strong woman. She's well-spoken. We learned in the movie that she had gotten a full ride scholarship to Texas A&M for their veterinary school. I mean,
yep. And
she's just profoundly intelligent.
I think, coming from the background that she has revealed, I think her life was going to take one of two courses. And that was either, like she said, she was going to be still living in her hometown in Louisiana with 6 kids and, like going nowhere, or, it made her stronger. She was forged in this fire of her childhood, and it made her independent. It made her strong. It built her to weather this. And yeah, she's amazing.
She is. And I'm worried about her now too. I worry about her in the wake of this verdict.
Yeah.
I don't think that the harassment is going to get any less.
I've been on Stormy Watch on her Twitter, and she has not tweeted about it yet. So, and yes, I'm still calling it Twitter. I'm dead naming Twitter. Sorry.
So I use Threads if I'm going to use anything. I do go on Twitter maybe once every couple of weeks. Thank you, Phil, because he's asked me to revive our Housewives Twitter, and I haven't figured out how to jailbreak it. I never did save the password. Anyway, I have not seen her put out anything new on either platform. So, speaking of social media platforms, this is a day where it would almost be worth being on Truth Social. Can you imagine the shit posting going on that right now? Oh my God.
I cannot wait until the few people that I follow on TikTok who I know are going to make TikToks about this. Like, I know that they have True Social, or they have people on True Social that send them stuff. So, like, yeah.
As my TikTok curator, you are obligated to send me good TikToks about this.
I definitely will curate your very own FYP.
Excellent. Excellent.
So, what was your good?
So I am going to tell you that my first thing that I wrote down was, is there a good? She told her story, but at what cost? And then I decided that the good was Clark Brewster. And he's the guy who became her attorney when Michael Avenatti screwed her over.
Yeah.
And to this day, he has still not taken a dime from her to represent her. And he seemed like a genuinely compassionate person when they interviewed him for the film.
Yeah.
Although there was part of me that was like, is this just going to be another person who betrays her in the long run?
I can't imagine how hard it is for her to trust anybody. Anybody. Like her own mother. Like,
oh, we will go there. We're going to go there. Because that was appalling.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, how she can like pretty much trust herself and her daughter. Like, I don't even think she can trust any of her husbands, ex-husbands, anything. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I wish her the best in her new marriage. I just wish her the best.
Yeah.
She's been through a rough go.
She deserves.
So what was your bad?
So my bad is I kind of touched on it earlier. Like, she has suffered at the hands of one of the most powerful people in the world. When she goes on tour, because she still strips, and she also does comedy tours, and she has security at her shows, and people show up to her shows with knives and guns, and like, I can't imagine the stress of that. And then her crossing into the Canadian border and them running her name, and all of a sudden having 17 charges for assault on her FBI record that were not put there by the FBI, but are on her record somehow. And the way she was targeted by the police in Columbus.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, she won a $450 settlement, and those police were fired. But she
$450,000.
$450,000, yes, $450,000, and the police were fired for that. But like, just the way that people target her, like, she has death threats all the time, and we have seen a lot over the last 8 years from people who are willing to go to those lengths. They send white powder in packages to people. They make homemade explosive devices. They take guns and knives to places that they shouldn't. It has to be terrifying.
Capital and maim and kill police officers.
And like, I think her ex-husband, and I think one of I don't know if it was like her tour manager or somebody, she's even said that if he gets reelected, she's leaving the country. Like, she's just getting out of here. And her ex is like, I just wish we would have picked up the kids, put the dogs on a plane, and flew to a tropical island somewhere. That is the only way that she will ever get peace. I mean, people find her house and they shoot her horses with rubber bullets to draw her out of her house so that they can shoot or assault her or whatever. I can't imagine. I can't imagine. And it's not like she can afford round the clock security. She still owes the ex-president felon $600,000, you know?
I'm not laughing at the $600,000. I'm laughing at ex-president felon. That has a nice ring to it.
So, yeah, my bad is just that she has suffered so much and she will continue to suffer. She doesn't deserve it. No one does. So that was my bad.
No, nobody does. Not even that fucking guy.
Yeah, no.
Well, maybe that fucking guy does, but so my bad was rooted in my sex work is honest work ethic. I really believe that sex workers should be protected just like any other worker. I believe that firmly in my heart. So the fact that, yes, every time someone talks about her, they precede it with porn star Stormy Daniels, adult film actress Stormy Daniels, stripper Stormy Daniels. I got so sick of hearing that. It made me really angry because
they never say director Stormy Daniels or author Stormy Daniels.
Right. Right.
It's always the sex work.
It is always the sex work. And I just got to say it's insulting, it's demeaning, it's dehumanizing, and that's why people do it.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, like she said, her career in porn prepared her for this because she is so used to being called a slut and a whore and a sleazebag and, you know, that nothing anybody calls her offends her except for liar.
I kind of feel the same way. The one thing I can't stand is a liar. So to be called a liar would make me really, really angry.
Yeah. Yeah. My past number of years that I have gone through has given me a pretty thick skin too. And like,
sorry.
I don't like it. To be insulted, I must first value your opinion, you know, and there are very few opinions in this world that I value. So I don't get insulted a lot. But yeah, I definitely agree. I was just talking to someone the other day and the topic of sex work came up and I was like, sex work is real work. You know, it literally puts food on the table for some people during the pandemic when people couldn't work and they started OnlyFans, you know, that was how people survived. And if you do not think that you are not selling your body to your employer, you're crazy. I don't care if you're a construction worker or if you sit behind a desk for 40 hours a week. You sell your body no matter what. So sex workers do it in a different way. And it's valid.
Sorry, I'm texting Rob, who just sent me a picture of Snoopy at his typewriter, and it says, and after all the dust settled, they suddenly realized America had porn.
Oh, you cut out just there for a second. Suddenly realized what?
And after all the dust settled, they suddenly realized America had been saved by a porn star.
Saint Stormy.
Yeah. Who, by the way, is a registered Republican. Don't think I didn't notice that, but
and she likes Sarah Palin.
We'll forgive that too because she has lost a lot in greater service to all of us. So
yeah.
Was that Phoenix or was that Dexter?
Phoenix is barking. Dexter is running out.
He's checking it out.
Yeah. So are we on to ugly?
We are, and for people who don't know the rating system, an ugly can be a good ugly or a bad ugly. So was yours a good ugly or a bad ugly?
I mean, there, like you said, it was really hard to find anything good in this. And so mine is a bad ugly. And mine is the act itself that got her here. What she described is rape.
I agree.
She does not call it rape. Let me absolutely clarify. She has never called it rape. She says that she doesn't feel that she was raped. It was consensual, but what she described is rape. And
she says, I didn't say no.
Yep. And that is, I believe, in my opinion, that is somebody who felt that they were raped, but it does not meet the legal definition of rape. And so they won't call it that because that could be defamation.
Well, and I was glad that she also was like, nobody believes a porn star can be raped.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, I just, like everything that we have seen with the Me Too movement, like what she described is very reminiscent of what a lot of the women described Harvey Weinstein doing, and it was like, I came in and he was in a towel and then he was on top of me, and it's always going to be, well, then why did you go to his hotel room, or what were you wearing, or it just, the whole thing just disgusts me. And like she said that he never tried it again, but there was one time where she was alone with him and she basically said that she was on her period, so he wouldn't try.
Yeah.
And like he just, everything that he has been accused of and never convicted of, but he has lost some civil cases to, like, this man was our president, and what she described was rape. And he can't deny it that he slept with her. In fact, there was a tweet that they showed that he basically confirmed that she was telling the truth. All this time he's like, oh, like, I would never sleep with her. She's has a horse face, she's ugly, blah, blah, blah. And he basically confirmed it in a tweet. He and she even tweeted back to him that was like, thanks for confirming everything that I've been saying all along, and yeah. And she was just supposed to be another notch on his belt. Like that seems to be all he cares about. That's why he like didn't pursue a relationship with her. And there was even another escort or porn star that
so she was, I think she was a playmate, or I think she was featured in Penthouse.
And I mean, it's literally
McDougal.
Yeah, he's trying to build up his numbers. He used to call into radio shows and brag how he slept with Madonna, and like, yeah.
Which, frankly wouldn't surprise me, but ew.
Yeah.
I have to respect her when she says I wasn't raped, but I agree with you. I think she was raped.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not legally definable. The description she said was rape. And it's gross. Like, he's gross.
Yeah, he is gross. Grosser by the day.
He was our president, and he could still be our president.
Yes.
While he was convicted on 34 counts today, he could still be our president on November 6th.
Yep.
So
well, that's a terrifying statement. Well,
that was my ugly. What was yours, and was it good or bad?
so mine was also bad, and I just have to say that her childhood was so fucking triggering for me. Um, I don't think either of us has ever like really disclosed a lot about how rough our own backgrounds are, but we have some pretty significant trauma in our backgrounds. And
Both of us have a shockingly high ACE score.
and we're laughing, which shows how perverse we are.
Yep.
Because who doesn't laugh when they have a high ACEs score? Right?
Yeah, I mean, only
Here,
those who aren't here anymore.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, when we found out that she was molested by that neighbor when she was 9, and she said, "No one ever helped me," I was like, damn, I know that feeling.
And not only did no one help her, but because she said her mom made her lie about it so that she wouldn't be taken away by CPS, nobody believed her. They thought she was a liar because she had to say no, he didn't, after she had said yes, he did, when other girls came out about it.
And speaking of the mom, that interview that she did for Penthouse, and then the fact that she called and left that horrific voicemail on Stormy's voicemail, oh my god, that was very triggering for me as well. um the thing that she said to her about, "I gave you those pretty titties."
Yes, that is what I'm looking for.
Oh,
I'm looking for that quote.
so disgusting.
Yes, I gave you those pretty titties. You just had a doctor make them a little bigger.
Yeah.
Ugh, I literally wrote "ew."
That's exactly what I wrote too. But you were talking about her being dumped on a boat without a rudder and told to navigate a rocky shoal in shark-infested waters. Her childhood set her on her trajectory.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, I know that I just said sex work is real work, and I get angry when I feel like she's being devalued by porn star Stormy Daniels. So I understand that I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth, but it's also sad to me that a woman who had a chance to go to college on a scholarship and get an education did not choose that for herself.
So she talked about how, she made a lot of money very quickly,
Yes.
on her looks. And given how she grew up in poverty,
Yes.
I can see how that would draw her in. And I think a lot of people, not just women, who have sexual based trauma from their childhood, a lot of them do go into some sort of sex work because it gives them a feeling of control. It gives them a sense of control around the trauma. And so it's nothing that I think is bad, because sex work is real work. And, through no fault of their own, they were traumatized in this way. And if that gives them some sort of sense of control over that trauma in their life, then who am I to knock it?
It's interesting that you say that, because I was reading a book by Tristan Taormino, who's also an adult film actress, and she was writing about kink, and she said that she feels like acting out kink can help rewire neural pathways in a healthier way.
Yep.
Which I think is a very interesting idea, and it's very, very much related to what you just said about retaking control.
Yep. I mean, there's a reason that there's a stereotype of very high-powered men being submissive to dominatrixes. It's because they have so much control over the rest of their lives. They need a safe place to let their guard down and be out of control and submissive, and to give control over to somebody else. So, there's a reason for the stereotypes. And yeah.
Well, that wraps up the goods, bads, and uglies. Do you have any notes for the film?
Um, there was a lot about her personal life that made me so sad to watch. And because this documentary humanized her, I'm glad they included it, but it felt a little exploitative to see her going through her divorce from her husband, and like when he didn't put the daughter on the plane, and Stormy thought that he had fled with her daughter and she wasn't ever going to see her again, and writing her a note and hiding it in her bed and curling up in her bed and crying, and then like she's over in London doing Pierce Morgan, and she's her daughter gets straight A's and she can't be there to celebrate, and her ex-husband chastised her so much for missing out, but she is the sole breadwinner for that family. I guess they never touched on it, but I guess he's a stay-at-home dad, which is completely fine. But when she owes $600,000 to a president, and $300,000 is getting stolen by her lawyer, she's got to be out on the road and strike while that iron is hot. Like she was packing him in with her on the road show, and the tour, the book tours, and the interview tours and things like that she did. That's where the money came from for your lifestyle, dude. Like, so it
I
just,
got the feeling he was a musician, although obviously not a hugely successful one. Yeah, I'm
yeah.
kind of a little bit.
Um, she actually, even when she was in the thick of it, she said that um he is such a good guy and such a good dad,
Yeah,
and she doesn't hold any ill will towards him, because she owns up to lying about sleeping with Donald Trump, and I put that in quotes because of the discussion we had earlier.
right.
But who wants to admit that? And who cares? She's a porn star. She slept with a ton of people on camera. Like,
Well, and it was well before she met or married him, or so I thought.
right. Yeah. And so
In fact, it was because she
it
said
was,
that she was
yeah.
single when she had that interlude with Donald Trump.
And I we're all insecure in some ways, but he just seemed to be very insecure when it came to her. And she is a strong, independent woman who does not need a man, so I can see how that would be intimidating, and I can see how what she does in her career could be intimidating, and he thought he can handle it. And I think he put a lot of blame on her that was undeserved. And um she just she takes hits from all sides and just gets back up and keeps going. And but yeah, a couple of times watching her cry felt exploitative.
I am going to say, in fairness to the ex husband, I imagine it would be very difficult to be married to someone in the adult film industry. It would be hard to feel secure and hard not to be jealous and body shamed around your own body. I mean, he kind of talked about, my penis was half the size of the men that she was acting with in other films, and I mean, it is what it is, right? But you take someone who's already got some insecurity and put them in that kind of situation, and of course they're just going to be more insecure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the stress of everything that they went through. I mean, because he was going through it with her.
Yes, yes.
He was worried about his daughter too. He was worried about Stormy. Like I said, people were coming to her shows armed, and she was getting death threats all of the time, and she got arrested for no good reason, literally. Um, so yeah. Um, I don't know. They could have probably left some of the stuff in her personal life out, and it would have retained the same value, as far as the documentary humanizing her.
I think you're right. I think probably the hardest thing to watch for me of the things that you were just talking about was when she was curled up in her daughter's bed crying. That was very difficult to watch.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. There are some things that could have been left out. By the way, speaking of exploitation, what about the guy who started filming the documentary originally, who she ended up having a brief affair with? Like, is he another person who was just exploiting her and betraying her? Was she a full participant in, was she just seeking comfort wherever she could find comfort?
Yeah, door number 3. Yeah, I think when you're going through something like that, and she was away from home, and so I could see confiding in him and getting very close to him, and that could lead to romantic feelings. It's not a basis for a relationship, a lasting relationship, but yes, she had an affair with him while she was still married, and that is not good, but I understand where she's coming from on it. And I mean, that's one of those things where, like, unless you have been in a similar situation, you really shouldn't judge a person.
And you really shouldn't gatekeep somebody else's sex life.
Yeah. 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 I mean,
Yeah.
you never know what other people are going through, or what other people's lifestyles are like. So, yeah.
Did you notice that we started where we ended
No.
with her watching the announcement of the indictments in the case that was decided today?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Like I said, I've been on Stormy Watch and she hasn't tweeted yet. So,
Yeah, the documentary both started and ended with her watching the announcements of the indictments.
yep.
Well, what else?
This has to be so validating for her.
I would bet it's validating and scary.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it's just going to dredge everything back up. I mean, so she has a pinned tweet, talking about, this is her one and only Twitter account. She only talks to her fans on OnlyFans and loyal fans, which, what is that? I know OnlyFans, but I don't know the other one. And she does not have a Facebook.
So spend a little more than they spend on OnlyFans.
Yeah. So she has a pinned tweet, and then she has another tweet from, I think, probably yesterday or something. And so you can see that people are talking about today under those tweets. And so it just dredges everything back up for her, but it still has to be so validating for somebody who, has been called a liar this entire time by a ton of people. And there are people who still think she's a liar, but yeah.
I have to tell you, seeing Seth Rogen and Jimmy Kimmel, I felt like I gained a huge appreciation for Seth Rogen after Preacher, we did Preacher, because that was so great.
Yeah.
But I just felt like I had a whole new appreciation for the both of them, and the way they spoke of her very respectfully.
Yes. And they seem to, I mean, she was cast in a role of a stripper in the Seth Rogen film, but he seemed very respectful of her and what she does, her craft.
By the way, the person who wrote or directed that, Judd Apatow, is one of the executive producers on this documentary.
Oh, huh. I don't know why that surprises me. It shouldn't. Yeah. So this was actually almost my ugly, but in the documentary, they showed dozens and dozens of tweets.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
And
that. I would love to hear your thoughts.
I really wish they wouldn't have covered up the usernames.
Oh, I kind of
You,
wish they hadn't done the tweets the way that they did the tweets because it was so distracting.
uh, I wish they didn't do the text on the screen about, like, when they would like shift from one thing to another. Like
I
we
felt
all
like
watch we all watch TV watching our phones at the same time, and so and especially on Peacock, when you pause, I would pause to read, it goes into
oh, like a black screen with a
yeah,
spiral. Yeah,
very quickly.
yeah.
So yeah, I really wish they wouldn't have covered up the people's usernames, because I'm like, you know what? You put it out on the internet, own it.
It's fair game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to decide what else I feel like I have to say.
It's a
I'm
quarter
so
after 8.
I'm
It's a
so
quarter after
drained.
8, so my lights,
I know.
yeah, my lights went off. They're on a timer, so I have
Oh,
to turn
how
them back
funny.
on. Oh, yeah.
We're both
Just
like looking through our notes.
we went over a lot of it
We did.
uh
We really
peripherally. Yeah. Yeah. I go back to stealing $300,000 from your most high profile client ever. $300,000 is chump change in his world,
my
you
God, it was
know,
one of his watches.
right?
Basically.
Right?
Probably.
I mean, I guess that was kind of the timeline that I was going for, is like in November of 2018 is when he started separating from his then second wife and was having to pay out all this money, and he was signing over all these assets because I think he knew what was coming down the line, and those assets were going to get seized, everything in his name, or
Yes.
yeah, they were either going to get seized or they were going to have to be sold because of the fines and court costs and everything. um and so, it was just a couple of months later that he was indicted for the Stormy Daniels case, and he was indicted for the Nike and the other cases. And so I I just he must have just spent, like, he was financing his lifestyle, and it was quickly coming to an end, and that $300,000 made a difference somehow, even though he gave his ex-wife almost $2 million plus spousal support. Like, I just $300,000.
I think he would have been caught out eventually anyway, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the $300,000 was just her stuff. Like, the other stuff was millions and millions. Like, so I'm just like, you had the opportunity, and you did steal millions and millions. You embezzled, and there was, tax evasion and all of these other things that could have gained financially from. I don't know. I feel like it would be me stealing a tip jar, and then getting in trouble for it, like stealing a tip jar, and then, like,
And then losing your job.
losing my job and getting my name in the paper, and like people like, for less than what I would make in 2 hours of my regular work, like, it's I just and of all people, the woman who is taking down a president, like, of all people to steal from. Like, I will never understand that.
I don't know, man.
So I have to tell you, I don't know if Peacock has a version where there's no advertisements, but the very first advertisement that I got before the documentary was for Venus pubic hair razor. And I just thought that was ironic.
It's appropriate.
That made me chuckle. Yeah.
I didn't see any ads, so you must have gotten the cheap version of Hulu, and I got, or not Hulu, Peacock, and I got a slightly more expensive version of Peacock. Who knows?
I always do.
After being able to stream the news today, though, I think I'm going to keep it.
Yeah, and so I must have the cheap version because I wound up streaming the news on basically Google. Yeah. So
I just want to look through the last little bit of my notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really see anything else.
No.
I do. I tried to find her podcast because apparently she hosts a conspiracy podcast.
That's right.
And I was not successful finding it.
The name of it?
They never did say the name of it. And I searched Stormy Daniels, and of course, like hundreds and hundreds of podcast episodes come up, but they're not ones where she hosted it. I suppose if I Googled it, maybe that would have been.
Beyond the Norm with Stormy Daniels by Audio Up. It is.
Subscribe to that right now.
It is on Audible, at least. I love how she describes herself. I am a writer, an activist, a stand-up comedian, an actress, a psychic medium, a director, a porn star, and a witness for the prosecution against the former president, Donald Trump. I love that's how she describes herself.
You said it's called Beyond the Norm?
Yeah.
No, the podcast name. Tell me again.
Beyond the Norm.
Okay. I wrote it down. I'll put it in my phone later.
She's my age. She was born in 79. I was shocked at that. And not because she looks older or anything, but I guess it's because she has so much life experience that I perceived her as being older. But yeah, she's 9 months older than me.
Wow. I'm older than she is.
Yeah. Yeah, she is my age.
Wow.
Yeah, I think about the things that I was doing when she was starting her career in strip clubs and starting to do porn, and I'm just like, I admire her even more for being able to keep her wits about her, because there are a lot of people, not just women, in the industry that don't make it out on the other side. They have drug addictions, they fall in with the wrong people and fall victim to other things. And she's my age, and in 1998, when she was I think about myself at that age, and she's been through so much.
I'm going to say one hypercritical thing about her. Okay. Those boobs are too big.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're huge.
There was a picture of her after she got her first boob job, and that was good. They were proportioned, whoever her surgeon was cream of the crop. And Like now I'm just like, that just makes my back hurt.
Yeah. It's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. And also I'm like,
it's exactly what I was
I love to get massages. Like I try and get a massage at least once a month, and like trying to lay on those, like
yeah. Well, on that note, do you have anything else that you want to say?
I don't. I highly recommend this documentary. It was a good watch. I'm glad this was the perfect inaugural watch for the
us.
podcast.
Yeah, for us to come back with. I agree. Well, I would like to thank Phil and Perich of the Capes and Lunatics podcast for helping us out, for helping us get up and running again, and agreeing to host us on his network. I promised him that I would share some of the plugs for his podcast. So you can contact the Capes and Lunatics podcast network at capesandlunatics@gmail.com, or you can call and leave a message at 614-382-2737. You can find all things Capes and Lunatics, episodes, social media, merchandise, new merch with new logos available now, Cash App link, and the Patreon. It is all at tubespace.io/Capes and Lunatics Podcast Network. Check out the Capes and Lunatics new YouTube channel. So he's got all the socials happening.
Where does that man find the time? And now he's helping us. I need some Capes and Lunatics merch, so I need to go to his store.
I do too. That would be a worthy purchase.
Yeah.
Well, little sister, I'm glad we're back in the saddle, and this was a good start.
I have missed doing this. It's funny. I had thought about this for a while, and out of the blue, you messaged me and was like, would you ever want to do it again? And like, I was like, yes. And yeah.
Rob has actually said, I don't want to horn in, but I might like to guest on Real Housewives every now and then. So we may have a Real House husband.
There you go.
Well, I guess then until next time, and we think we're going to be podcasting 1 to 2 times a month.
Yeah.
Until next time, we will say thank you, Phil. Thank you, everyone who's listening, and please like us and share us with your friends.
Yeah.
All right. And on that note, have a great night.
Bye, guys.
Bye.